Yes, we are live. Hello, everybody. My name is Björn Egemann from Congress Media. I'm part of the team who is organizing the Enterprise Digital Summit, formerly the Enterprise TO Summit in Europe. And besides doing our conference, we also do this Google Hangout session irregularly on specific topic. From the universe of social collaboration, enterprise 2.0, and digital transformation. And today we are addressing a very interesting topic, which is the topic of working out loud, which is, just on vogue again this week, because there's the Working Out Loud week running, which is a worldwide initiative. Where everybody's showing up on what he's and she is doing in regards to working out loud. And today, in today's sessions, we want to discuss the term and the definition and the idea of working out loud a little bit. And therefore, I invited some interesting experts on this panel. Unfortunately, we are missing still one. Hopefully, she's joining us later. So I just want to introduce everybody here on this side briefly, and then we start right away into the discussion. But we're starting off, ladies first, with Lesley Crook from UK. She is an working out loud activist, practicing also working out loud in the network. So you can discuss this later on, what's it all about. Then we have from Down Under, Simon Terry joining us this morning, or on this side this afternoon. He is also a culture and leadership expert, also very much engaged in the initiative or in the worldwide discussion about working out loud. Then I have some more German colleagues, starting with Jochen Adler. He's a social workplace consultant, also the key person behind the German initiative on the working out loud. And last but not least, we have also a practical person on there, also an intrapreneur person on the working out loud. So we have Harald Schirmer. He's without the lower third because, yes, that's right. He's from Continental AG and leading the digital transformation project at Continental AG, and has some nice practical lessons learned on this as well. So maybe we're starting off with the first question, and I would like to start from the time zone going backwards with Simon first. So can you please introduce yourself, maybe add something to my introduction, and then also relate your person to the term of the working out loud. So I brought out a posting this morning about the various definitions from the works of Bryce White to the latest, which is the most discussed one, the works of John Stepper, who came also out with a book this week or last week on Amazon. So there's a lot of things going on, but how do you relate to the term, and what's your take on this? What's so specific and interesting, and what's the importance about the term? Simon.
So for me, Björn, the opportunity with working out loud is that I think it brings together a number of things that we've been looking for in social business. So I came across the term through my involvement in Change Agents Worldwide, where I was collaborating with people like John Stepper, Harald, and also with Bryce Williams and others like Dennis Pierce, and there was this common discussion. My work is around leadership, collaboration, and learning. And all of a sudden, seeing this term of working out loud and the idea of combining, making your work more visible, and also narrating that work in progress, enabling other people to get engaged in work that's still going on so that they can learn from it, but also so that they can help you do that work. And in the work I do around social collaboration, that really seemed to be the big opportunity. And as a result of some conversations with other passionate advocates for Working Out Loud, we created International Working Out Loud Week. And we're now in our third International Working Out Loud Week, which is just an opportunity to spread the conversation, to spread the movement, and to give people a week's practice of working out loud.
Okay, so but when we talk about social collaboration, it's always about posting something on the network about what we're doing. So what's so specific about working out loud in the sense of, or in the regards of that? This is now this is an important term we have to deal with and to think about when we want to enable social collaboration.
So I think many organizations have struggled with the idea of social collaboration simply because they view it as something exclusive to social media and solely a communication task. You know, we'll make our people communicate better, they'll be better engaged because we have social collaboration. Whereas we all know organizations run on collaboration, the human version of collaboration, whether it's face-to-face, telephone calls, emails, people interacting in all sorts of ways to get work done together. So for me, the opportunity with Working Out Loud is it reinforces a couple of things. It's about work. It's about people coming together and sharing and learning together to do work better. Yes, you can do that in social means, but Working Out Loud isn't exclusively about social technology. It can also occur face-to-face. It can also occur in other channels and other ways. And I think John Stepper's called out one specific practice around that, which is the Working Out Loud circles. But there's this overlap with social collaboration. But what I think it also does is it draws out the best of social collaboration, which is when social collaboration gives people a new way to connect, solve problems, and innovate together in their day-to-day work.
Okay. Lesley, what is your background on the term and what's your take on it?
So I've been involved in social enterprise. Oh, the dog would start barking now, wouldn't she? So I've been involved in enterprise social networks at a global healthcare company for about, I suppose, about 7 years. So we had a number of networks that ended up being decommissioned, so we could truly bring in one that was enterprise-wide across the company. So there was the R&D network, there was the manufacturing network, but that just continues a siloed way of working, which you know, you don't want across an enterprise. So it took quite a while to decommission those networks and bring employees across into one space. And as that was going on, I started to it came, I suppose, from using Facebook and realizing the power of Facebook and connecting with my family across the world. I've got family in America and in Australia, and connecting with people that I've just met, you know, maybe once, and that we were like-minded, and then you wanted to carry on being friends with them, sharing photographs and everything. So actually getting involved in Facebook, and then realizing the benefits of bringing that way of working into an organization right across the organization, rather than it just being in your part of the company. And where I was actually the manufacturing side of the company, but realizing the benefits of sharing and reaching out and building up your network right across the company, which has got 100,000 employees. And then the realization over the last, I suppose, 2 years of the role that I ended up picking up in a roundabout way, which I realised ended up as kind of a community manager role, as out of communications, but working in partnership with my IT colleagues, who were the spot of the network that we're using, which was Yammer, because we already had SharePoint, and it was the realization of co-creation and sharing other people's work on their behalf. Because I'd been in the company so long, I kind of knew how the company operated. I was also being trained in Lean Sigma and agile ways of working, and that got me to think about things in a different way around decreasing the use and relying on email, because you only know a selection of people within your company that you probably regularly email with, and that you don't know what you don't know. So there was all of this journey that I was going on, kind of not realizing that I was working towards working out loud in a network, which is kind of where I am now, and the methodology and the model that I've created. So there's just an awful lot that has come together, you know, building up to basically me leaving that company and suddenly realizing that we've got International Working Out Loud Week just this week. So it's all come together at a really good time to enable me to meet, you know, the right people at the right time and reach out to the right people at the right time to share what I'm doing, help build on it, yeah, make some sense out of this for other businesses to demonstrate the business value of working this way.
But what is your emphasization? Is that right? Yeah. Well, why? What's your reason for emphasizing the term working out loud also in relation to all the social collaboration, digital transformation activities? So why do we have to talk about it specifically to enable the others?
Because I think it's just it sings and it's simple. That's. As soon as I heard the term, someone said to me through work, look at this, John Stepper working out loud. It doesn't need much explanation. It kind of does what it says on the lid. It is simple, and that's why I think it's stuck, because it's simple and it makes sense. And you don't have to think about it too much. It is what it is. And hopefully it's not just lingo that's kind of like a Western phrase, that it does work all the way around the world. I hope, you know, if you're, I don't know, has it been tested? If you're Japanese, does it work in German? If you were to translate the term working out loud, does it actually mean the same all the way around the world?
It's not really working out in German. So, so maybe let's go over to Jochen on specifically on this question. So Jochen, first on your background and what's your take on the working out loud, and then also addressing this whether working out loud, the term and the expression, is this also working in the German language area?
Of course, yeah, thanks, and hello to everyone on the call, and I'm glad to be here. On my background, as maybe an extended introduction, well, I actually worked at Deutsche Bank for a few years, 7 years in total, so I was there when it all began, and I could see the first working out loud circles forming and experiments starting. So I wouldn't have believed at the time that it would become such a big movement, and that's why I think it's very, very yeah, humbling to be a part of it. And I'm now spending my time and energy advising companies as a consultant, Björn, you said it, as a social workplace consultant, to prepare for the digital age and become more networked and deliver better results that way. So working out loud has become a key way to actually accomplish that and achieve that. It does not work as well in Germany, I'm afraid. Working out loud as a title is a bit hard to understand for us. I think some people would think of working out as a fitness activity. That's what you do at the gym. So there's the first potential misunderstanding there. And then also there is a bit of a cultural difference, of course, in workplaces in Germany as opposed to other cultures, especially the North American one. We tend to separate more between personal things and work things. So the whole idea of a working out loud circle as a bit of a self-help group, as John Stepper explains it, Dale Carnegie meets the internet, that's something we need to adapt for the German, not only language, but also workplace culture. And that's why I've made a step to bring a community together of enthusiasts here in Germany who help bring the materials across the Atlantic, so to say.
So what are your thoughts about the adaptation? So for the German language, so where's the specific issue that you want to change? So besides the naming.
Well, the naming already makes clear that this is about work, so it just has to be emphasized a bit more clearly in a German corporate environment that this is actually a way to improve your work performance and your work results. That's what people care about a lot. And in terms of the methodology, I think social networks have a bit of a tougher stand in Germany because we are relatively introvert in our workplace culture. We don't like to boast about our accomplishments and make announcements of what we've accomplished. So I think the greatest obstacle that I see when I talk to people in Germany and in German language about the goals of working out loud is that there's some sort of a pushback saying, yeah, but I don't want to publish everything I'm working on a social networking platform. I don't want to make it available. I don't want to make it visible. I want to keep it to myself until I'm confident enough that this is actually something I feel happy with sharing in a broader circle. So I think that would be the one thing we have to do a bit more of an education that working out loud, despite coming from America, where the cliche is that Americans are very outgoing, very outspoken, is actually about being generous, making contributions, helping others before thinking about how you can put yourself in the greatest light.
Okay, last but not least, Harald. So you're in the position to bring up also the actual practical lessons learned. So Lesley and Jochen, they also got their backgrounds and origins from the corporate actual work, but you're still in the corporation. You're leading a transformation, or you're part of the approach digital transformation initiative at Continental AG, which is a German company, but it's a global initiative. So maybe what's your take on the term on the one hand side, and on the other side also on the different perception of the term throughout the world?
Yeah, thanks, Björn. I would call our company, it is a German company, but it's really a global one. I mean, we have about 200,000 employees globally in more than 50 countries. And this is really also my focus, really bringing people across the globe together and improving that. So just from my background, I'm doing the digital transformation at Continental and taking care of the culture development and change management. So that those three things are combined here. For me, this term working out loud just really is describing what we are trying to do for a long time, but we just didn't have a name for that. It covers really in my eyes, one of the most important topics, and that's really a different way of learning from each other. Learning from each other, sharing things we know, things we do. It's about workflows, it's about processes which become transparent now. And there are, Simon said it in the beginning, there are different ways of doing that. John Stepper is describing those circles as a more personal way of advancing in this matter. We are focusing a little bit more on things like screen sharing, where you can really, across the languages, you can just see what other people are doing. And having this as an optional offer, and having, besides chatting and having a social network in our company, besides, we are also stepping into this improvement. So there, I think there are really different ways, and this whole working out loud is really offering different ways of seeing it and adding value to that. I think what we started doing with the introduction of social media, where we had the guide network, and those people were improving their work. They were sharing and exchanging what they're doing, how they are getting the people on board. In I would say in a first way of working out loud. It was already social, but it was not in video, because in bigger organizations, it's always kind of hard with the bandwidth to have really video conferences with more and more people. So it's more down to chatting, screen sharing, and stuff like that, and having a phone conference in parallel. But this is also very, very helpful for people to see on the screen what the other one is doing, how he or she is really doing one task. And then going back into a discussion, how to optimize such processes, how to become more lean, and get the most out of it.
Okay, so now an open question to everybody of you. So I try to analyze a little bit the origins and the history of the term and the definitions, and certainly there's a connection to the academic work of the action research theory, which is always about certainly about self-reflecting, expressing your self-reflection on your work. And the action research theory always was a on-spot interventions approach. So you go on there, you build up a circle, for example, and do something in a specific time on the self-reflection to also change your way of working. Is this also part of the working out loud approach? So this very much organized approach of analyzing and observing and expressing what you're doing? What's your take on this?
So if I can jump in there, Bjorn, I mean, I think it's a related piece, and I think, you know, there's a number of disciplines that are related streams to working out loud, and I think the core element that's common is the fact that to work out loud, you start to surface tacit knowledge. You start to surface and make explicit things that you may not have considered in the way you work. And importantly, you're surfacing those in a very reflective mode. You're open to interventions at that time, but you're also open to interventions later, asynchronously, particularly if you're using social media or other channels where someone might come back at a later point and make a suggestion to you about how your work could be improved or how it could be changed or how you could adapt it next time. And so I think, I mean, one of the examples, I wrote a blog post which is, you know, working out loud fosters double loop learning, because what it really does is it helps people to think about that process of work while they're in the process of work, and that's a very valuable thing for organizations, particularly when people can do that double loop collectively in the way you're describing through action learning.
If I might just add to that, because this is really what makes people in our company understanding it very well. What we did up to now, and we see that in many places, we were sharing final results or things we called final. We've ended up finding out that final is only not very permanent because the environment is changing so fast. So it's about being agile, it's about being fast. And if you describe now, we are not sharing, like, let's say, the Picasso final drawing, but we are sharing really, as Simon said, the process of how to get to that drawing. And since this is a very early stage, this is really a sharing draft in the process, people start learning from each other in a way where they can improve, where still there's things open, there's still questions. Once something is published because it's final, there's no questions anymore. Maybe just from those who have not participated, but for the people being part of the projects, questioning is over. And once you step in with working out loud earlier, when you're really sharing your process, your first thoughts, your first directions, then real collaboration can start because it's still fluid.
But to be nice. So the loud is not only that you define general rules of loud within the company and that everybody tries on this. No, there is the sense of have to also define methodologies or sessions where you're working out loud together. Right? Maybe also use it.
Well, I think you can definitely do. You can definitely do sessions and a number. So from the Toyota management system, you've got Go to Gemba. The sort of idea of taking people to the workplace and actually being involved in the physical environment where processes are occurring, because it's suddenly when you're in that physical environment, it's rich. What we're looking at is you can do what people might have had to do physically on a production floor. You can also do that socially. You can also do that in whether it's video or in other channels, and enable people to share their work much more widely and have that much more open to their own personal reflection on whether the work can be improved, but also that collective learning and collective input.
And this is where I started to come in with my kind of training that I was getting in the company, that was very much talking about the Toyota production system. They were bringing in their own model into the company for manufacturing, and I kind of realised, you know, they were talking about going back to the floor and getting the opinion of people on the production line, you know, at the coalface. Those are the people that really know about what was going on, and then blending it in with social ways of working that you can, you know, report that back really quickly. It's about, you know, authentic posts. It's the speed of telling, you know, a story really quickly about something brilliant that's going on down in a factory, for example, or going on perhaps in a laboratory situation if it's not completely secret, or, you know, under you know, it's sensitive information. And equally, you can kind of look at it the other way, that a leader is maybe going and can, you know, put up a post that he's at a particular place with employees, even have a nice photograph, you know, with a group around a production line or something like that, and post it up immediately, because that's, you know, brings in the senior leader engagement, you know, really easily. And it kind of is, it's about recognition as well, that they're doing a great job. And they're getting to a senior leader and getting their opinion across, maybe about something that they're working on or an issue. It's not all about things are going well, but actually, you know, showing that there's that senior leader with someone right down on the production line, and they're sharing their knowledge really, really fast.
Jochen. Really, do we need
I'm
specific...
sorry, Björn, I cannot really hear you. So the question you're going to ask doesn't come through. Let me just add one thing to what's been said before, what Harald mentioned. I mean, we really have that habit, especially in the workplace, of sharing documents only when they are final, or at least when we call them final. And just think for a minute what that does. If I receive a document from a colleague and he has created it believing it is final, there's already ego in the play. I don't want to criticize this document because, well, I know the colleague has labeled it as final, so if I find a flaw in it and I say something, it's going to be a bit offensive. So the whole idea of working out loud and basically just sharing stuff as it progresses, early drafts, or even just initial questions. Hey, is this even a question worth considering? Is this something I should be working on, or do you think it's worthless? Gives a whole different approach, a whole different spirit to work. And as Harald has really nicely pointed out, it improves the result, but it also improves the process, because there's always learning from others, other viewpoints are being incorporated, and it advances individually as well as the organization. That's why I think this approach is just, yeah, exactly what we need for the digital age. It's just so brilliant because it answers all the questions that people are having around cultural change, around speed of technology advantages. We all have smartphones now. Everything's connected. Everything's real time. Everyone's asking themselves, how do we work together in such a world? And I just think that's the best answer that we have.
May I just add a short...
It's around...
Yeah.
Sorry.
Lesley, go ahead.
I was just going to add, it's around trust as well. Like, as I said, the example of kind of like the Facebook culture is that you end up, and the TripAdvisor culture as well, that you end up trusting, you know, the comments that are being put out there. Who now goes anywhere without kind of checking out on TripAdvisor a hotel review or a restaurant review? Or it's now getting to the point that you ask maybe your friends and acquaintances on Facebook opinion of something before you actually do it, and then you take that into your own organisation, and it's encouraging that approach that you trust your colleagues. I found that often people are not going to the IT help desk anymore. They put a question out there about something to do with IT, and they get the answer off of a colleague even quicker than they would waiting on an IT help desk ticket, to the point that IT help desk end up monitoring the comments that there actually are on the network, and then jumping in kind of, and you get a faster response rate that way. So it's emulating the way we are interacting on social networks, you know, that are real. The real social networks is now, I think, being copied actually inside organisations, but it's a slower pickup rate. So efforts like Working Out Loud Week are hopefully, you know, sharing the business benefits of working this way, because we're doing it anyway in our social lives.
Yeah. And maybe sometimes we don't have to really put such a big thing on it. I mean, what I experienced when I first introduced it really with the name Working Out Loud, everyone was expecting like this big new method and this heavy new thing. And once we did it, and I just showcased it, I did Working Out Loud sessions in our network by just sharing my screen, and I just did my regular work. I said, well, I scheduled a meeting. I said, whoever wants to visit, to look at what I'm doing, I share my screen, I have the phone open, I just talk about what I'm doing right now. And honestly, I got so great feedback from people saying about very, very little things. Well, I didn't know that you can do this in a wiki or this in a blog post, or how easy it is to create a forum here. So it's very low level. And if we think about it, it seems like everyone had to learn how to use a computer by themselves. I mean, everyone learned Windows and Office and all those programs by themselves. How many people really did a real training? So, and by sharing now such low-level things, it really opens up, it brings people together. It's really a great thing. And if we think that a little bit in the future, I mean, we are working in a production environment too. We have about 100,000 people working on machines and Working Out Loud. Just think of it having Google Glasses on. One is doing the work and all the others on their Google Glasses can see it. So you can really transport also this taking a view over someone's digital shoulder worldwide. So you can have that person in Mexico working on a machine, but while working and while seeing and actually doing what he's doing, the people in Brazil or in Shanghai or whatever other countries, they can do the same thing on their machine, being live basically in the same environment.
But how
so
about
that has really potential.
But how about the distraction of within the work context? So I cannot really think about somebody working at a machine being distracted by his work.
But I think, Björn, that's where that you have to think about this in the way we think about social. This needs to be, this is not about push media. This is not about seeking to interrupt people and market to them. This needs to be making things transparent so people can pull. And I think when people can choose to participate, and this includes to the person who must work out loud. You know, I speak to a lot of organizations who are like, great, we're going to force our employees to work out loud. And my response is no. You know, it must be voluntary, right? Because people must discover their own expertise. One of the great things that happens when people start to work out loud is they discover they're actually experts in things that they thought were ordinary. Yeah. Because other people don't have those skills. So I think the point of distraction, you have to do it in a way that allows people to filter it. You have to allow people to pull it. You have to allow people to choose to engage in working out loud, because in that context, working out loud can create the value of learning and relevance and helping people. Whereas I think if you get to that kind of, there is now a video stream on every person's computer, today is Jochen Adler's day, you will be watching Jochen Adler's day, I think that's not going to deliver value to anyone. And I think that's where organizations kind of get trapped in this model of, oh, we're hierarchical, we've got command and control, this is the new practice, we'll force it on everyone. This is a social practice. It's a human practice.
And it's a big danger too. I mean, especially in Germany where we have Works Council, I mean, if you force people to be transparent, I mean, just think of it. If I would force you to showcase your computer screen or your daily life with Google Glasses or so, or having a video camera installed somewhere, this is really an issue about privacy. I mean, this has to be an option. It has to be some sort of a freedom to act. And I can just invite everyone to just do like a 15-minute session, or like maybe just a 5-minute session, having someone else looking at every movement of your mouse. I mean, that really creates quite some fear. And so there's another side too. You have to learn that. You have to become aware of it, and what Simon says, this immediately or very fast adds then also the appreciation from the other side, saying, I didn't know that you're that good, or I didn't know that you can do it like this, because in very small steps it already creates benefits, but it's got to be optional.
So let's talk about this for such and working out.
You're breaking up again. Sorry.
What are the requirements and prerequisites for this approach? Great.
Can you repeat the question, please? Completely. Yeah.
The requirement for what shall we do? What do we need to set up the environment to be that the working out is
So prerequisites.
Yeah, prerequisites and support.
I think what I've got a success story about a German Works Council from my former employer, and it came from this model that I've developed, this model and methodology, which I'm calling now hashtag, oh bless you, hashtag WOLUM, so it's working out loud in the network. And I'm beginning to share the model, and I can share it on Twitter after this session, but it brings together looking at your network, looking at some brilliant posts as the DNA of your organization, and then you kind of look on the, I don't know, the left side of what's going on in that post. It's about what your company is about, what you actually do, kind of like the business processes, the knowledge network inside of the company. It's about your products, your customers, your performance. And then on the right side of what's going on in your groups and your communities, it's about how you're doing it. So it's the behaviors and values of your organization. So it's kind of like your organizational development side of the company, and you bring that all together in a lovely mix of the conversations that are going on, authentically and fast inside your organization. And then hopefully internal communications is monitoring and co-creating the posts that are going on inside there. And you bring that to life by using what I'm now calling business intelligent hashtags. So this model that I started to work on last year, I started to share it around the teams in the communication teams inside the company, and it ended up being shared with through the European comms team to the German Works Council. I didn't realise that they were actually going to do that, and I ended up a couple of weeks after I presented it to that comms team, they came back and said that the German Works Council have now approved the use of Yammer inside the company because they can see that the business value of using it in this way. So it's kind of the what and the how and the post. It's demonstrating that actually you're talking about you're having conversations in a business context, but equally encourage the use of social groups inside the company as well, because we feel that that's bringing a work-life balance into the company. Often the senior management are starting to use the social groups like running and cycling and baking a cake or something like that whatever it is, but it's showing that they have a good work-life balance, and they're getting involved and flattening the hierarchies, actually using social groups. It's kind of like a softer backway approach of introducing senior leaders into your enterprise social network. So there's one of my, as I said, one of my big successes was the German Works Council. That I was quite amazed that this model approach that I developed and still developing can turn them around after everything you guys have been saying today.
That's really been amazing also from my experience. Looking back at my time in the corporate world in a huge global corporation, pretty much like Harald mentioned it for Continental. I mean, a German company, Deutsche Bank, got the name right there in its title, being German. But really the most global company I've ever worked for. I've worked for a couple American companies beforehand, but they weren't as globally organized as Deutsche Bank is. And if you look at it from an employee perspective and also from an HR perspective, then obviously what Lesley just mentioned, it's just a great way to recognize talent and develop people into new roles. I mean, that's always a big challenge. You have a role to fill somewhere, a position is being created because a new initiative is growing and it's taking off and it really needs good people. And if people have worked out loud previously and they have contributed to topics, they just make themselves visible as potential candidates also to step up and get a new job. And I've seen it in Deutsche Bank more than once, that people have really made career advances because of their contributions in previous situations where they've made their work visible and their contributions were visible, and the peer group was supportive and everyone said this guy really good at what he's doing. You see all the evidence there on the network in the virtual space, and then someone from talent development or from HR in that capacity is really generous, really helpful. Really thankful, I wanted to say, for these contributions because they help him pick potentially the ideal candidate to fill a new requisition.
That's great.
But what were the prerequisites you have done in the Deutsche Bank organization to enable this before, to allow this working out loud? So because Deutsche Bank is today still a hierarchical organization very much, so what the things you have done, what has the team around John Stepper and everybody has done this?
Well, they have made it clear, like I said, by linking, for example, with HR initiatives or talent programs, right? Career fairs is some examples that John is giving frequently. If you go into a career event, for example, where people are actually actively looking for new roles inside the corporation, and employability and employee mobility are the topics that HR people have as challenges around that. So that's an ideal way to engage leaders and hopefully also middle managers to see that working out loud is something that can actually help them develop their people and produce better results. And as Harald said earlier, and Simon also, it's a...
Sorry.
Was I breaking up, or could you hear me? I thought maybe my audio.
No. It's fine.
Okay, so final thought. If you make it voluntary and people basically just encourage it, saying, I want you to work out loud, I don't force you to it, but I encourage it, I support it, then that's the thing right there. You will have a grassroots movement because people will be engaged, will want to try it out. And the worst thing that managers can do is really to, as said before, command and control everything and force everyone and just... I've had managers in Deutsche Bank who were very hierarchical and wanted to account for my time and also the place where I worked on a minute-by-minute basis. They always wanted to be able to pull me out of a meeting if they needed me. If you're like that, it won't work. But if you let go and if you have a manager who's supportive and just says his people, just try it out and produce your better results with it, then it'll become a movement. And that's what John's doing.
Yeah, I mean, if I can add, if I can add to that, I mean, I think if you're looking at some of those prerequisites, they're very familiar to anyone who's been working in the social collaboration enterprise 2.0 space. You want to be clear with people, why are we doing this? What do we think some of the benefits are for this organization? You want to be clear in what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. You want to be able to give them environments across multiple channels in which they can connect and come together and share their work. And as you know, Harald was saying, it might be screen sharing, or it might be social networks, or it might be a physical fair where people come together and share the work and the projects that they have underway. But thinking through and then thinking about which I am back. Sorry, we can't hear you. Okay. So as I was saying, you know, it's kind of bringing everyone together, and if we can create that environment where people can come together and start to share their work and support them. And I think this is the critical piece that's been mentioned a number of times by each of the speakers. It's the role of leaders. How do leaders support people and create an environment that supports working out loud?
One thing to do, though, is I was just talking to someone yesterday about this, is about nipping them in the bud even before they've kind of even joined your company. They're kind of the new hires. So I was talking to someone yesterday who creates mobile apps, and develop perhaps an app that you give your new hires just as they're joining the company, and it gives them access to the information that they need as a new hire, but they can also kind of start to see the conversations that are going on maybe in your Yammer feed or something like that. Give them the hashtags about, you know, the buzzwords in the company. I mean, it is future thinking, but it is you before they've even really properly joined, or as part of that, I don't know, 2-week or month induction, whatever it is within your company, you introduce it right from the word go, and before you know it, they're doing it. They think that's how we're all working around here, but they're suddenly next to someone 10, 15 years who are like, don't do it, because they haven't, you know, have that change behaviour. But if you introduce it as soon as possible as part of induction, then they'll be curious and they think everyone else is doing it. That seems to be the best way. So the company my previous company, it was part of bringing in as part of the induction program, not immediately, but maybe people have been there, I don't know, 3 months, and they were put through an induction day or something like that, but they were introduced to a specific group as they're coming into the company, and a space is kind of, I think, like a 100-day group where, you know, it's already a community, because all the new hires have all gone through that group, and they're all going to start asking questions. Immediately they've got a network that they can ask questions to, because everyone's been in that group, has been in the same position as them as a newbie in the company. So but the other one that it's ended up as a big success is, you could say, about it being forced by, you don't want to force it. My line manager made a decision about our team. So we had a team of about 25 of us between the UK and the US, the digital communications team, and he made the decision that let's give it a go. Let's use a private group within our network to communicate. We can still email if it's just relevant to one person, or it's private and confidential information. Still use email as and when appropriate, but generally let's talk to each other, let's collaborate, let's share what we're all working on, and let's help each other fix our problems. So it was a little bit of a slow start. I was, of course, the big encourager and trying to get them kind of motivated to use it. But after a year where I went back to them and said, I want to write up how we're all doing, and they all basically said, we were really surprised. We didn't think it was going to work. It was going to be a distraction. Couldn't see the benefits of it. But now if we'll be really frustrated. And the group is not just about work, it's about using the mobile app that you can, on the way to work, you might get stuck in traffic, you're going to be late. It's celebrating personal, it's your birthday, our colleague in the US, rah-rah about the birthday or an anniversary. It share a screenshot of a SharePoint site that they're really proud of, the before and after and everything, share workarounds. It's used for absolutely everything, and we've ended up feeling a stronger connection within the team. So that's an example of where it was pushed by our manager, but it was done in the right way. And he still said, yeah, use email, and so both were going on, really. So that ended up as another good success story within the company.
But let's mention that this was introduced within the interactions before from Simon, that allowed to bring up all the test knowledge,
Sorry, Bjorn, I can't. It's broken up again.
Okay, so let's I think we have some day with. Let's do the question here. What are your findings in bringing the working out loud within the so,
Sorry, Bjorn. Are you asking the question about, you know, what are the actions to enable people to benefit from it? Okay. So I think you know, for me the key things are that leadership support. So being able to make sure people feel that it is an environment where trust can be created. I think it needs to be an environment where people are looking to embrace the learning aspects of it. So supporting people to learn and work together. I think that's critical in any of these environments, because you know, we need to recognize this is a new practice. This is at times a difficult and for some people a frightening practice to start to share their work before it's finished, before it's perfect. And so we need to create an environment that allows for learning, allows for the odd failure, allows for people to be redirected, and as Jochen said earlier, takes out that ego. So create an environment that's supportive and one that fosters accelerated learning. For me, that focus on the cultural aspects of working out loud is an important part of the process. Perhaps Jochen would like to add to that.
No, actually, I think you've summed it up very nicely. I don't think I have anything more to add to that. I was actually going to suggest that we move towards the end of today's session, also because for me at least it's impossible to hear our moderator. I don't know if Björn is trying to tell us something. So I would just pass on this. It was great to be here, and I think Lesley and Harald have other things to add maybe.
on.
I think I could talk about this all night, really. It's such a huge subject, and it can go in so many different directions, and it is moving really, really fast, and the moving into kind of out of just specific networks and moving into specific apps that are problem-solving apps. I think that's the future of this. So it's not just about your own network; it's actually being quite specific with creating specific apps within your organizations that bring in the social element.
Yeah, and look, as a closing comment, I think one of the exciting things about working out loud is it's being built out loud. So all the people who are thinking and working in the way this is being developed and implemented in organizations are sharing this very generously. There aren't a whole lot of IP issues, and there aren't a whole lot of, you know, attempts to own spaces here. This is people collaborating to make this practice work. And so I think for people who are interested in learning more, join the global conversation about working out loud. And there are so many ways to do that, and there are so many related movements that I think there's a fantastic opportunity for people to follow on after this conversation and get involved.
Well, then maybe, Simon, that's been too brilliant to ignore. I need to add one more thing from a German perspective. The German language community is still forming itself. As Harald mentioned earlier, he wasn't even part of it because of his travels, so he couldn't be there for the first meeting. But as you just said, I mean, we're even working on German language versions of the materials, including possibly even the book, not just the translation, but also an adaptation to the German workplace culture. And as you said, we're doing all this in the open. It's going to be a completely public, transparent effort. Everyone can contribute. And that's why I'm so excited about it, because on a certain level, this proves and demonstrates that the methods actually work, because we're using them to bring the materials to Germany. So that's the best proof you can have. It's really brilliant. We're working out loud about working out loud. So everyone's welcome to join. That's been my final sentiment here.
I hope you know again for moderation helps us me for I'm sorry for the audio problem. See you next